Ever have someone tell you to calm down when you're in the middle of a temper tantrum? Not very helpful, is it? Thankfully, there is another approach that is very helpful. Stress is all around us. One study that I was just reading this morning showed that in the last month of people that were surveyed, 76% of them said that they have experienced stress to the point that it is impacting their health. 76%. That is huge. The physiological sigh is a breathing strategy that helps to reset our nervous system when we're in the midst or the height of a stressful situation. I'm going to share a little bit about the science behind the physiological sigh, but I'm also going to share my story of the first time I tried it. I did it wrong, but I learned so much. Going to share a little bit about that and then stay to the end because I'm going to tie this strategy in with another strategy that hopefully will help prevent these stressful situations from occurring in the first place, or at least lessen the impact or lessen the frequency of them occurring. As you know, if you've seen any of my other videos, I am not the expert on these situations. I am sharing my own experience with what the experts have recommended and what the experts say. I will link to the experts throughout the video and down below in the discussion. If you click down where the three dots are and it says more information or more, there'll be links down there to the actual experts on these topics. And also, with some of my other videos, as I've said, I'm not sharing with you anything I haven't tried, and I'm going to share it with you whether it worked out or not. My first attempt with the physiological sigh had a bit of a funny outcome. It has been around since the 1930s. I first heard about it a couple of years ago, I think, listening to one of the Huberman Lab podcasts, and I've since heard him reference it several times in different podcasts. One thing I want to point out is that this physiological sigh is intended for when you're in um, a bit of a twist. Like you are escalating. Examples could be road rage. You're having an argument with someone. All of those types of things. It is important to realize that this is one of the tools in the toolbox of many things to pull from. And remember, these tools are not just meant to sit in the toolbox. You can't just read about them, watch videos about them, and learn about them. You've got to put them into action. When you put them into action, sometimes it doesn't quite go exactly as planned, but it's still a start. I only really put it into practice or gave it a try about a month ago. So, what is some of the science behind this? How does it work or why does it work? Well, we all know that when we get stressed or anxious or worked up, or as we say around here, when you get yourself into a twist, your breathing changes. It gets shallow and fast. And that shallow and fast breathing continues to create a bit of a vicious cycle in our nervous system and actually adds additional tensions and emotions to whatever situation that we're in. And it's important for us to kind of recognize that. Always step number one. And once you've recognized that situation, that's when you reach into that toolbox and pull out the physiological sigh as an effective breathing strategy to down regulate your breathing, ultimately, your stress level. So, what does it look like? How do you do it? It's 2 in breaths, 1 deep breath as you fill up your lungs, and then another sneak of a breath in to completely fill your lungs. And then, and this is the key part, then you slowly let the air out. And that slow exhalation of the breath actually activates the rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system, part of our autonomic nervous system. The other part of the autonomic nervous system is that the sympathetic system, which is the fight or flight, and that's the one that we're all built up. So this actually helps to be a bit of a break and reset and get a bit of calmness starting. Looks like this. But you don't need to do the hand gestures. That's just me for demonstration purposes. So, what was the situation when I gave this my first try? Well, it was about a month ago, and I was heading out on a little road trip by myself. It's about a 600-kilometer drive. And I got to about 300 kilometers and started to run into a bit of an issue. And that then led to me getting myself into a bit of a hot mess. And here it is. This is me telling my story on the drive after a couple of hours. I was about 300 kilometers in today, and I was feeling this overwhelming heat. Not unusual at my age, but it was just hot, hot, hot. Anyway, I kept thinking, what is going on? It's just lasting forever. And anyway, a few minutes later, I'm realizing the air conditioning is gone in my vehicle. This vehicle with hot leather seats We're in a heat wave. The temperature today has fluctuated between 29 degrees Celsius and 31 degrees Celsius. It is hot. I am not kidding. There were beads of sweat on my shoulders, on my knees. I could feel little beads of sweat starting to trickle down the back of my neck. I was so cranky. I love to drive and listen to my podcasts and learn about new things. Well, I was so cranky, and poor Huberman, I was listening to the Huberman podcast, and he was talking about wellness and in particular, it's talking about skin and health wellness. And so I was listening, and then once I'm realizing I'm really hot, I'm starting to tune out. And for some reason, I'm getting mad at him. I'm not sure, just because he's the only other person in the car with me, I guess. Then my watch beeps, and it says, I forget what the exact words are, but the text that comes out says, your heart rate is unexpectedly high, which just makes it even go higher, I'm sure. I'm in a full on rampage at this point in my head as I'm driving and have no way to cool down. It is so hot. And I'm on the highway, not easy to to put your windows down. And then I hear the uh, Huberman say something about the physiological sigh. So I thought, to try and de-stress yourself. And so I thought, well, why not? I might as well try it. And so he talks about it, that you do the two quick in breaths, so and an out breath for the sigh part, and you do that repeatedly for a few minutes. Yeah, I guess I was a little stressed because I didn't even do it the correct way, but I did give it a try. As you know, you're supposed to do in breath in, that's a little bit longer, and then top it up with another little in breath, and then the slow release of it. Not exactly how I did it, but still some value in it. Stay tuned.
Anyway, so I did it. And I gotta say, it did help. It didn't take away all my annoyance, but it did help kind of just reground me. And then I ended up kind of laughing at myself. But even before I did that, as he was talking, I was getting mad. This is before my watch reminded me that my heart rate was so high. I was eating a couple Oreo cookies just as he's saying about the importance of nutrition and diet. And I know that. I am all about that. I say the same thing. Anyway, but I'm just, again, I'm taking all my anger out on him. And so I'm shoving in an Oreo cookie. And as he says that, I shove in another one just for spite. I was so angry. It's funny how you can run away with yourself. I was in a full on hot mess of a temper tantrum by myself in my car because I could not get cooled down. The air conditioning is broke and I am sweating.
Even though I didn't do it correctly, the physiological side, the way I did it, acted like a circuit breaker for me. It kind of just disrupted my train of thought and reset me anyway. So, this is a tool that may be helpful for you. Try it out and practice it a few times before you're actually needing it in a really stressful situation. Remember that this is for those situations where you have escalated to the point that you need to get yourself kind of reset. There are other things that you can be doing throughout the day, every day. And one of the things is to continue to breathe in and out through your nose slowly as much as you can. And you can see a couple of my videos that will walk you through that process and walk you through some of the techniques and talk about some of the benefits related to that. That's more for the long term. This technique is meant for a short term, in the moment situation where you need to kind of reset yourself, resetting the autonomic nervous system, getting the right balance between the parasympathetic system and the sympathetic system. The Oxygen Advantage group has so many great videos on YouTube as well about the importance of low and slow nose breathing. I'll link to those for more information. These two techniques and these two researchers and scientists don't always agree on every detail, but that's what I love about science. Find the common things in it, find what is based on research, and find what works for you. And the two thing or the one thing that is in common with all of these strategies is or the two things, I guess. One, they talk about day to day, breathe in and out through your nose as much as possible. And even though one talks about the physiological side, doing it a little bit different than the Oxygen Advantage group, both have in common the importance of that long, slow exhale. That's what triggers the parasympathetic nervous system. That's what starts to create the calmness. So, what I've found from a practical experience since that time when you saw my video the first time about a month ago, I've tried this a couple of times since, and it does work. Like the physiological side, it does have a very immediate effect, which is great. I also am taking the information from Oxygen Advantage about the very slow in-breath and slow out-breath, making sure that the out-breath is a little bit longer than the in-breath. That is a great thing to do if you feel yourself kinda leading up to a stressful situation and you're not quite in the throes of it yet. I find that so helpful. So what I've done a couple times, if I've been in a bit of a snit about something, I do the physiological sigh. That kinda does that circuit breaker, that down regulating of emotions. And then I follow that with the examples from Oxygen Advantage about the slow inhale through the nose and very slow exhale through the nose. And they work very nicely together.
All this to say, you know what? It does matter. It does matter how we think about things, how we react to things, what we do. We choose. We are leading our own living. We are the boss in our own life. No one else is coming. We're in charge. And this was a great reminder for me. So now I'm 550 kilometers in. The last 100 or 200 kilometers or so, I've been driving with my window down, enjoying the breeze on the highway, not listening to anything, unfortunately, because I can't hear anything. But it has been good. And now I took a little break to do a little nature walk at this beautiful spot. So all is good. And it was a good reminder for me to practice what I preach.
Remember, these tools do nothing sitting in the toolbox waiting to be used. No matter how informed and educated you are about them, if you don't put them into practice, they're not going to work. It's about leading your living. You're in charge, your wellness, your work, your leisure. If this speaks to you, hit the like or subscribe button down below. This is probably a good time for me to remind you that I am not a health expert. As always, please discuss any new health initiative with your primary care provider.